Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanum pakhair ragale ni hao chunashumme washmale ohio gonzaimas guten morgen hola bonjour privyet kaifa hal and a very amazing khush ahmadid to everyone who's tuned into PT World and are watching World this morning alongside the very pretty, the very amazing Mariam Shahzad and Shahzad Khan. Hello Mariam, how are you today?
I am doing good, Shahzad. I hope you guys are doing very well and you're ready with your teas and coffee to start your day with me and Shahzad. We have a wonderful, informative lineup for you guys today. I hope you're going to enjoy this. And Shahzad, carry on.
Well, what I wanted to say over here was that, I was just thinking that I hope that you're not going to steal away my lines. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to rise and shine, wake and bake, get up, be more focused on what you wanted to achieve in your life. But all of these conversations are obviously going to be a part of our show. But as a matter of fact, I think it's about time, because this is the first thing to know to do when you wake up, and that is to actually get to know about what's happening all around the globe. So it's top stories coming up. Let's see, what do we have for you? Good morning.
Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi has said that ensuring long-term energy security of country necessitates enhancement of indigenous exploration and production.
About 350 residents in Tokyo took part in an evacuation drill, a first for the Japanese capital, to prepare for the launch of a North Korean missile towards the country.
Tokyo braced for heavy snowfall on Monday, prompting Japan's national broadcaster to urge the city's workaholic citizens to head home early and some train operators to cancel services.
This one's not a good one. New Zealand thrashed Pakistan by 7 wickets with 25 balls to spare in the opening 2020 match in Wellington.
Match tickets for the 13 Sharjah matches of the HBL PSL 2018 are up for sale now.
But I hope I can find a friend who can give it for free. All right, ladies and gentlemen, these were the top stories. Time now to get moving with our topic for today, and that is that your happiness and your misery actually depends on the surroundings which you live in. For example, the type of architecture you live in, or the way the chairs are within your living room. Or this is actually one of the I think an article which was actually written by Odyssey as well, where they try to explain architecture. So architecture can even make you happy, and architecture or the space where you live in can make you sad too as well. But as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, this is not what we are focusing on today. We are focusing on two things, and that is that, first of all, are we coming up with alternate resources with which we can build up green buildings as well, which are healthier for the environment. And then we are going to talk about architect as a career for women, and we have graduates over here, fresh graduates as well. We have got one of the top 3 architects over here in the studios with us. He's a teacher to all of these students too as well. But right now what we are going to do is that we have a small video to share with you guys. Go ahead, take a look at that one, and when you guys are going to come back, I'm going to introduce to you the one of the top 3 and then the, well, students over here in the studios. Let's go, let's take a look at this video.
Number 10. Number 9. Number 8.
Number 7. Number 6. Number 5. Number 4. Number 3. Number 2. Number 1.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so the sole purpose of sharing this video with you guys was to highlight the importance of architecture. As a matter of fact, for all of these buildings which we shared with you guys. Now, what happens is that whenever we talk about, for example, Sydney or Kuala Lumpur or even Islamabad, you know, there are these buildings which we can think of as well, and they are known as landmarks. And other than just a country, I think continents are known to have, to preserve such heritages as well. For example, if we talk about the Mughaliya Dor, you know, we know that, you know, the type of pillars they used, and then all of these things, they add up to our culture and to our civilization as well, and holds some vital importance. So for that, to discuss all of these things, I think I'm going to do the introduction of our very apt guests who are over here in the studios with us. So this gentleman on my right-hand side is an architect, graduated back in 2005 from NCA Lahore, lucky one, and then running one of the most famous architectural design firm by name of Jamshed Khan Associates. He's none other than Mr. Jamshed Khan. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you very much for joining us. Alongside Mr. Jamshed Khan, we've got Itaza Ahmed, and he just graduated from NCA. Hello, how are you? And he's even working by now as well. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you very much. Yeah, where's your energy? Did you just wake up? It's perfectly all right, doesn't really matter. All right, alongside Itaza, we have been joined by an architect, a graduate from Kramsat, Islamabad. She's none other than, well, no, really, Noorul and Malik. Hello, Noor. How are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. I'm good.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And alongside Noor, I think we have got one of our class fellows too as well. She's none other than Miss Nehal Fatma. Hello, how are you? Assalamu alaikum.
I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. So I think I'm going to get the conversation started with you. Importance of architecture.
Importance of architecture. You have said before, Shehzad, architecture basically is a pattern, is a function which allow us to perform our activities in our daily life.
All right.
Architecture, when we talking about residential point of view, when we are talking about commercial point of view or cooperative point of view, there are three different aspects and so many others. But we have to be practical, be rational when we are designing.
All right.
What is practicality? We have to allow natural light, natural air inside the building. We don't have to disallow. It's nowadays when we are talking about resources, we are talking about conservation, we are talking about the practicality. So we have to first of all respect nature,
Right.
surroundings. So whenever a person who wants to live a happy and healthier life,
Yeah.
he has to be practical and rational.
All right, so I think that you're very correct by saying that we have to be practical and rational, and it definitely includes all of the different characteristics. For example, finances too, and then space and whatnot, and then comfort. But as a matter of fact, this video which we shared, I don't think that they have any connection with being practical. Or, for example, let's talk about Palm Jumeirah. It took them 4 to 5 years to actually build it. Do you think they were being practical?
In a way, you are right. But when you are going to build some iconic building for the iconic symbolic character for the country or for the continent,
To be a landmark.
Then you work on a form. You work on some iconic shape. And I believe all iconic shapes are embraced by simple lines.
So that means that, for example, just like me, I am an anchor, I host shows as well. So I have this signature where I say 20 to 25 hellos earlier in the morning. And all of these are good mornings anyways. So what is your signature style? How can we identify, this building might be made by Jamshed Associates?
Shehzad, your question is very interesting. Actually, I try all the time to avoid signature.
Okay.
In my point of view, signature is actually a blindness for the architect. An architect is not trying to innovate and trying to find new ideas.
Right.
Then he is fixed on some features. That is signature.
Right.
So I believe and I try myself to avoid the signature style. Try to innovate and try to bring something new all the time.
Right, right. But there is always certain something that that is your signature.
Exactly. That is unconscious.
Yes.
Because effort.
Right.
Consciously, you have to avoid it.
Right, right.
Let's just move on to Irtuza. So Irtuza, who inspired you to be an architect?
My grandfather, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So he wasn't exactly an architect. He was a civil engineer. But being around building sites inspired me to get into architecture.
This is what I'm trying to figure out right now, whether Irtuza is actually trying to speak in a tempo, because he's just continuously tapping his foot too as well. So he's keeping up with the beat. But other than that, Noor, let's move on to you, because the other thing which we wanted to discuss was architect as a career for women too as well.
Yeah.
And you were a graduate from ComSat. So how is it coming along for you too as well, and who inspired you to be an architect?
Actually, my other siblings most of them are engineers, and my brother is in army. So from the start, I have been seeing them practicing engineering. So I told my father that I don't want to be an engineer. I want to do something different. So my uncle, he's an architect. So I told my father that I want to meet him and discuss him that I want to do architecture. So I think he's my inspiration, and then I took admission in ComSats and started my studies.
So were your parents supportive in taking this decision? Because it's very different from all the other fields. Some parents want the girls to be a doctor or engineer. That's all there is. So were they really supportive?
Yeah, they were very supportive. And you know that it's very hard waking up all the night, and you know that architects are sleep deprived. They never sleep.
Right.
So it's hard for them to see them like that. And
I hope you're not the youngest sibling of all.
yeah,
Oh.
I am.
See? So I can pretty
you
much
must
see
be-
that on her face too as well, but let's move on to
Must be
Nihal. So
pretty
Nihal, how
pampered.
did you ended up in ComSats and then ended up graduating as an architect?
From the childhood, I had these genes of building or designing. I was very good in arts, but my father was an engineer, so I had both of them. So from the beginning, I wanted to design something, whether if it is aircrafts or anything. So at the beginning, I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer, but I couldn't make it. So this was the best field. My mother supported me to be in there. So for the first time, I never knew what is architecture in detail. Once when I went to ComStats for my admission test, I got to know that who these people are and what this field is actually.
Were they from the same planet?
Yes, they were from the same planet. I never knew, because this is something that lacks in our education system, that we do not know about the field in detail. But once I ended up, I think this is the best place where I fit in.
Amazing. But for women, the only reason why we're discussing this is that, even earlier when we have had architects on our show, and for all of those female architects, they said that, it's quite a lot of problem to go around places as well. And then, you have to kind of convince the customer at times. And half of the time they're not even convinced. They're like, no, you actually have to use this, whatever equipment it is, and then you have to do the same way which I want.
Yes.
So how many times do you go through these situations where you're actually trying to convey something better to the client, but they just cannot understand it?
Actually, we practice this since our education time. Like our education is for 5 years, and this is what we are doing in all that meanwhile.
Yeah.
We are always giving juries. We are convincing our teachers that these are the architects. But meanwhile, what we have learned, how to convince people.
Right.
So even in my 3rd year, I delivered a project. It was a very long, I took 3 months to build a house because I had to convince my client. It was every time he was like, no, beta, do this something like that, do something like that. But this is what I have learned from architecture school, how to convince my client, how to convince him what is the right thing. And this is, I think, for an architect, half of the job is this, that we have to educate our client what is best for him.
Yeah.
Right.
And half of the time, you know, they just do not feel like it. So what they do is that they
Yeah.
put in all those golden marks
Yes.
and whatnot. They overdo things. But it's perfectly all right. By the end of the day, you have to live in those houses. But Jamshed Saab, now, you know, the other half which we wanted to discuss was about using environmental friendly materials and then sustainable designs. Do you think that over here in Pakistan, we're at a point where we can talk about using environmental friendly materials or sustainable designs?
It is started now in Pakistan, but not on a bigger scale. And the awareness regarding sustainability is spreading day by day in architects and especially in laymen. So it is good, but sometimes we feel we don't find those materials and approach from the client side. We have to educate them. Nihal said, I would like to say there is a basically a conflict of taste in the world. Conflict of taste. If I recommend some environment friendly tiles and materials, but client says no, this bathroom tile should be on the front of the building.
Yeah.
And his taste is not developed and he is not aware.
Yeah.
So it's the war between architect, designer and the client. So there we try to educate them. We spend our time, we invest our time to educate. So step by step we are trying to educate the society towards sustainability.
But what kind of materials are actually environmental friendly materials?
Basically, it depends upon the location. If we are talking about Islamabad, we are living in a city which where we find lot of rainy season.
Yeah.
So we have to avoid those porous materials which are not good in
Or are dissolvable in water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to use some white wash paints, white colors to reflect the radiation. So these are the very simple basic points. You can avoid the those radiations which basically heat up your buildings.
Amazing.
Okay, so why do green buildings? First, you will tell us what is green building, and why do green buildings cost more than traditional buildings?
Basically, traditional buildings are also we can say green buildings because we use indigenous materials in our traditional buildings. Traditional buildings, I would like to say, whenever we go on motorway, you would find some mud houses. All mud houses mostly faces towards south.
Right.
There is a science behind that.
Right.
We'll definitely get back to that science, but ladies and gentlemen, at this very particular moment, what we need to do is that we need to go for a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning. We're building homes, houses, and yes, identity as well. Good morning.
In the plains of Sindh, the Jhumar dance is performed by the village girls. Please enjoy the Sindhi Jhumar.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For everybody who just got tuned into PTV World, you watching World this morning alongside Mariam Shahzad and Shahzad Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about architecture as a career for all those ladies who are out there. And then other than that, we're talking about, using newer materials which do not, I think, damage the environment as well. And then, sustainable designs which we can actually have for the last 200 or the next 200 or 400 more years too as well. But Jamshed Saab, you were in the middle of something where you were actually going to tell us about a few secrets which are
About
actually
green building.
with the architects too as well.
Actually, Shehzad, I was talking about that about our villages where you find mud houses.
Yeah.
They people use indigenous materials. They people don't waste water. They don't import materials. Whenever you import tiles, whenever you import sanitary, you have to know about their embedded energy.
Yeah.
Right.
You are consuming fuel to import those materials. So when if we talk on smaller scale in villages, which is almost 60 to 70% of our country, you find some techniques for their houses. They have shades where summer sun can't come, but when winter sun comes, they find sun rays inside the bedrooms.
Wow.
Right.
Yes, and they have shadow casting for in the behind the house where they find their kettles. So they have wisdom in their housing. But when we are copying the magazines in architecture, and we are applying because they are looking aesthetically very pleasing. And we are building thousands and thousands of houses in our colonies and societies. Those are not related to our practicality, our living style, our climate.
Yeah.
So you would not find that comfort which you are looking for.
Right.
All right, but Irtaza, moving on to you now. For example, when we talk about environmental friendly material or sustainable designs, it actually is in connection with innovation too as well. And now to innovate, they say that only 2 or 3% of the global population gets a newer idea. The rest of them actually have to copy it. So which segment would you want to be in? You want to be in those 3%, or you want to be within that 97% who are actually trying to copy, or probably even mess up while copying?
To innovate probably means to invent as well. So agreeing with Sir Jamshed, a lot of the sustainable development techniques do stem from traditional building techniques and vernacular materials. And to innovate, a lot of people think it just comes in what the building looks like, but it also, there should be more innovation in how it functions and how it provides use to the way we live in now.
Exactly.
Right.
So with changing circumstances, innovation is inevitable because the buildings we use today are not necessarily how we used them in the past,
Yeah.
Right.
regardless of them being environmentally friendly or not.
All right, thank you very much for remembering that you really do not have to tap your feet while you talk. But as a matter of fact, innovation comes with a little bit higher cost, and people over here in Pakistan are not already willing to pay the architect than to actually innovate or to move on to that phase as well. So how do you think then we're going to come up with innovation techniques which are actually going to be on the lighter side of the pocket?
Okay, so when you design, with one of the challenges is cost, and the more challenges you have, the more your mind works and the more inventive you are.
Yeah.
Those challenges kind of help shape how you use certain materials. So it's not necessarily a con that the price is low. You can have good architecture for cheap.
All right.
Right.
And it's not a problem whether the costs go up or lower
Obviously,
with
it's a
people,
problem.
because people are going to hire architects, right?
People are going to hire architects, and architecture, I feel, especially in Pakistan, would serve more to the poor, because those are the people who actually need architecture,
All right.
as opposed to richer people who can afford more expensive materials. But working within a budget and working within certain limitations, an architect is someone who can, use that challenge and embrace that.
So are you trying to imply that architects actually save your cost rather than increasing it?
In the long run, yes, for sure.
Really? How? How? Explain it. Jamshed Sahib, do you want to explain
why
it?
not? Why
Yeah,
not?
sure.
Exactly, because architect is very much clear about the materials. He is very much clear about how to apply. He is avoid wastage. He's trying to avoid wastage. How? What is planning? You hire the architect to plan your house, for example. Why you are in planning on the paper? Because you are not willing to demolish walls during construction.
Yeah.
That is another saving. And when you are talking about the strengthening materials, you don't need to put any extra and any less steel bar.
All right.
When you are talking about the material, you don't have any idea porcelain tiles, you have no idea about glaze tiles.
Yeah.
You are a layman.
Exactly.
And we know where that tile must be placed.
Yeah.
So architect actually guides you and avoid the
No, but the only thing which I'm trying to highlight over here is that once you go to an architect's office and you meet an architect and they start working with you, so I think that the only budget people are thinking about is the architect's fees, and this is something which actually withdraws them from not hiring an architect, or rather going to a craftsman and finding a cheaper solution too as well. So yeah.
Shehzad, I would like to say that architects and designers' job is not to design everyone's house.
Yeah.
Right.
He can't. I can't design all Pakistani's house. I
Because
have
if
a
you did,
job.
you'll be living somewhere in Dubai then.
Exactly. I have to develop some model house
Yeah.
Right.
to for the people. Those can follow those approach.
Yeah.
That approach to start their design and to establish their buildings. So architect's job and designer's job is to deliver something different, something economical,
Right.
something pleasing, and other people have to follow them.
Exactly.
Okay, what criteria do you use to establish the design process and everything?
Whenever you sit for the design, you have some requirements, taste of client,
Right.
your or approach
So
on
is it
approach.
basically your approach? Do you
Exactly,
put it
exactly.
forward? Because a lot of clients, how do you actually cater with those clients who are very fussy about that? No, this should be like this, and you have to put an idea like, you know, this is my criterion. This is
Exactly.
how I do things.
Actually, there are so many parallel things. For example, site. What is
Right.
the context of site? What is the requirement of client? What is your education, your
Right.
taste as an architect, your approach towards
Right.
design? What is the available material in the market
Yeah.
and technology?
Right, right.
You have to compose that design. Whenever we are talking about a single design, that is basically a composition of multiple designs.
Right.
For example, you are talking about a design of a house, but kitchen is another a complete design, bathroom is another a complete design,
Exactly.
and the vanity is a complete design.
Right.
Your wardrobe is a complete design. So one design has multiple designs in it.
Exactly.
Right.
So when you are talking about details, when you are talking about practicality, so you find lot of design in a single design.
Right.
Exactly, that's very aptly said as well. But I just want to move on to Noor over here. So Noor, for example, if I want to make a house, what kind of land should I actually buy? I think this is something which we need to ask an architect or not.
You're asking about the land.
Yeah, purchasing a plot, for example. What type of plot is actually well suitable to make a house?
I think it doesn't matter
Okay.
in our field, because the major factor is the direction of the building on the plot. So we must teach our client that that direction is very important. So usually they doesn't know, and the major face of the building is towards the west, and you know that is in our country the harsh rays comes from the west, so we shouldn't face our building towards the west. So the direction and the sun direction is very important, also the wind direction,
All right.
from where the wind
So how do you check, you know, for all of these directions too, as well as an architect? Do you have equipments? Do you have tools to check all of these things?
No, we know that.
Or that-
You
that
already
is-
know.
Okay, so you've learned it.
There are
Yeah.
instruments and
Okay.
there are so many softwares
Yeah.
nowadays we find. So wherever you have a plot in the world, you can find the wind direction, psigraphy, and sundial. Basically, whenever you go for the to find a plot for your house,
Yeah.
you have to give marks to the location first
Right.
of all. What is the location? Near to your office, near to your kids' school, some hospital, market, park.
Yeah.
So these are the features which make the price high and make the value of the plot.
Well, I think living in Islamabad actually makes you closer to all of these things at all times too, as well.
Exactly.
And we have to pay the cost
Exactly. When you are talking about you are asking from Noor, I agree with Noor. That doesn't matter what's the direction of the plot, because when you are an architect, you know how to modify, how to mold the whole building.
No, but you see what happens is that, for example, you know, we have different sizes. We have got 500, and then we have 40, 80, then we've got 35, 70, you know, 35, 70, 40, 80. These are the terms which we use. So, for example, if you buy a land, you know, it comes out of a cutting land piece as well, and it's like 10, 90. Now, obviously, it's going to be a hard job for an architect to have a face of 10 and then, you know, go back at 92 as well. So this is what I'm trying to ask. Do you think that people actually need to consider that, or an architect can solve it just like that?
Actually, you need a courage.
Okay.
Design is a courage.
Okay.
Also, that's where innovation comes in as well. That's where it's going to be different than any other house. If the shop is a weird shape, obviously the house is going to be different as well.
Well, obviously, certainly, but then, you know, we do have examples where people actually messed up literally too as well, and then they obviously have to demolish it and then come back without again. But moving on to Nihal now. So now, Nihal, while you were studying, what type of educational curriculum do you guys have to go through? Do you think that it is in line with the latest trends, or it is not, or do you think that we need to modify these curriculums as an architect?
I think it is definitely in line with the current trend, because as students we always looking into the internet and researching alongside, because there is already a set pattern that a university follow. For instance, in architecture we have design, we have technologies, and we have history to look into. All these three things are already settled. But as a student, when we are designing, we always look for the latest trend, what other people are doing. Of course, we are developing a country and we should accept this and we should learn from the other world. I think it's fine because we just need a guideline, and we are the followers of the path. We have to find our own destiny, I guess.
All right, well, that's a cool statement to give too as well. But as a matter of fact, you know, since we even talked about environmental friendly material and whatnot, are we trying to cut our costs too as well, and are we coming towards cheaper solutions about making homes or even commercial buildings or offices? Because I think it was 2 years ago where this was a project within NCA2 as well, where people came up with some materials that you can actually build up your own house within 500,000 rupees as well, and it was just because of the fact that they used an alternative material too. And do you think that these materials are actually going to hold up the house for 4 generations of my families, the next generations to come in?
There are, Shahzad, 2 questions in your one question. Basically, it is a very important topic that when you are willing for the sustainable house, you don't find cheaper materials. Materials are costly, techniques are costly. Sometimes you find few things which are not costly, but in totality you have to face some bigger budget. And your second question is please would you like to repeat?
Yeah, sure. What I was trying to say over here was that, you know, I want to use materials which are cheaper, and the house actually lasts for the 5 next generations.
Exactly, the strength of the house. Actually, it's a cultural thing. As what I observed, whenever we go in a market to purchase something, we checked its strength. Weight of the bucket is more than the weight of the water. Exactly. So we have something in our mind that is virasat. That house must be transferred to the son and the grandson. So, but in current era, you find those materials which are not have longer lives, 100 years, 200 years. Those have lives, for example, 40, 50 years. But when you work in the back of your mind about virasat, then it doesn't suit in our society.
Right.
Yeah, go on, because I was just about to cough. Ladies and gentlemen, very sorry because I'm suffering from flu.
That is all right, that happens. So there are a few mistakes that you know, architects always make. That previously I've seen there are houses, they're big houses, but they've consumed so much space that the rooms are really small, and they've given a huge living room. So what process do you go on? What are these mistakes that architects usually make?
Because we have even seen, you know, people making like 3 rooms over on top of a wall. We have seen these architectural disasters too as well. And when we talk, and we do even have a few pictures, so if we can share those pictures with you guys. Well, we have one picture. Let's see. So this is an architectural disaster.
Let me confirm
see what this is.
Yeah, let me confirm, this must be not
this
an
is not
architect's
architect's
work. Please
why
don't
you are
blame
putting
architects for this.
Well, obviously, there might be some craftsmen who came up with this idea that we have lesser space, but what we can do is that, you know, we can go up in the sky.
Maybe that's what the client wanted.
Well, the client just wanted 5 or 6 rooms.
In this picture, the client, contractor, and the architect is the one person.
Okay, but very quickly, Sam, because we have to wrap up the show too as well. Pakistan is definitely one of those areas which are more prone to climate change. And with all of these climate change, we see that floods come in, and then we do have earthquakes coming in as well. You know, floods are almost every year. So what type of designs do you come up with where you think that, you know, earthquakes or, you know, all of these floods are actually not going to matter to the place which we have constructed? Or do we even consider these things?
Yeah, why not? First of all, where the floods occur on a yearly basis, we have to find the location for the societies very carefully. One of the thing, and the second thing, another why the floods are coming. That's another topic.
That's
but
another topic,
yeah, but I would
But
not
we do
like to
consider all these.
exactly, exactly. We have to consider why we are consuming so much energy and
Exactly, or one of the most common mistakes is that that the water comes into the basement rooms as well and whatnot. But we
Exactly.
are running short of time, ladies and gentlemen. But very quickly, it is a Noor and Neha. Whatever you want to do in near future, go ahead, share with all of those people, and what you think needs to be changed about architecture, go ahead, speak to the world. Very quickly.
Architecture has the potential to change and shape how people live, so definitely want to contribute to that and come up with methodologies for sustainable urban development. Yeah.
Very nice.
I think I should teach all my clients that how can they make energy efficient and cost effective buildings with right materials.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, since our topic of discussion was the sustainable housing and green buildings, I would like to tell all the people that sustainable building might seems costly to you right in the moment, but in the longer run, it is also going to affect you in a very positive way. It has a value that you will be very happy with it in the longer run.
Exactly. Thank you very much for being with us. It was lovely to have a conversation with you guys. We definitely wanted our show to be 2 hours long, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and talk to my boss for that too as well. But thank you very much once again. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we even had a public service message which was in line with our topic, and that is that, when we talk about renewables material or, material which is environmental friendly, I think when we say environmentally friendly, it gives you a hint where it's actually going to last longer than all of those other materials which you use while you are constructing your own houses. And that's when they say that it's going to be helpful in the longer run. Imagine that you do not have to change your tiles after every 5 years because they break. So I think that's going to save you quite a lot of cost. And these people are becoming architects. They're studying for more than 10 years, 15 years, having their own offices and such vast experience. They're not doing it just out of anything. They're doing it because of the fact that it is the time of it is the need of the hour. So please make sure that whenever you are jumping into construction or you want to build a house or office, always be in conversation with somebody who's actually the expert. Do not forget to write to us on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of
World This Morning.
On Twitter.
World This Morning without a G.
On Daily Motion and YouTube.
World This Morning.
And this fabulous repeat is going to be at
11:05 p.m.
Till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourself. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.